Have you ever caught yourself watching a drama and thinking, here we go again? Well, there are things we love, but there are others that have gone too far. It's time to tell the truth. Today, you're going to see the 5 things that urgently need to change in dramas, and I bet you'll disagree with at least one. Have you ever had that strange feeling of déjà vu in dramas? As if, even with other characters, other names, another soundtrack, the story was the same as always? You're not going crazy. And this is the first thing that urgently needs to change in K-dramas. The world of K-dramas, unfortunately, suffers from a serious problem: excessive repetition of formulas. There's the rich, cold, and traumatized male lead, the poor, optimistic girl, but who keeps getting kicked around and stumbling, the forced kiss in episode 7, the marriage contract invented to please grandma, the amnesia that comes out of nowhere at the end, the nice rival who always loses, the separation in the penultimate episode, and the reconciliation in the final minutes of the last one. Does it sound like a recycled script? Because it really is. And the worst part, many of these stories start with promises of something different. The first episode gives you hope. You think, now it's going to happen. But just a few chapters are enough for the script to fall into the same traps as always. Creativity is lost. The narrative becomes a race to fulfill obligations, and the viewer gets frustrated. Of course, cliches themselves aren't the problem. They exist in any culture, in any narrative genre. The problem is when they're used as a crutch, as a substitute for depth, when they no longer serve to move us, but just to fill time and sell the same package with a new cover. Meanwhile, more mature, daring, and complex stories remain shelved. Dramas about real divorces, couples over 50, mental health, psychological abuse, single motherhood have almost no space because producers prefer to bet on the safe option, on what already worked. But does it still work? The audience has changed. Fans around the world are more demanding, more conscious, more connected. They want layered characters, evolving plots, surprising endings. They want to be truly moved, not just watch another variation of Korean Cinderella. The market needs to realize this soon, because if it continues treating viewers like someone who settles for little, it's going to start losing ground and losing fans. Because as familiar as the formula may be, no one likes watching the same reheated dish every day. The second thing that's long overdue to change in dramas, and that many still pretend doesn't exist, is machismo. And we're not talking about just a comment here and there. Machismo in dramas is structural. It's ingrained in the way scripts are conceived, in character arcs, in power dynamics that repeat episode after episode. How many protagonists have you seen who start independent with their own dreams, but who, throughout the drama, end up completely nullified? They fall in love, and their entire life starts revolving around the man. Career, abandoned, friends, disappeared, ambition, forgotten, all in the name of love. Meanwhile, the male lead is almost always emotionally unavailable, often rude, cold, bossy. And this attitude is romanticized. He yells, humiliates, treats badly, and the audience is led to believe that this is intense passion. In the end, just an expensive gift or a cute gesture, and that's it. He's forgiven, redeemed, and becomes the perfect match. But what about emotional abuse and symbolic violence? This type of narrative sells a dangerous idea. It teaches that a woman needs to endure everything silently because, in the end, love transforms the man. But transforming someone shouldn't be anyone's responsibility, and true love isn't born from pain, nor from submission. Furthermore, the woman who dares to break out of this pattern, who is too strong, too free, owner of herself, almost always becomes the villain. She's painted as cold, calculating, self-interested, as if female independence were something to be punished, as if there were only one type of good woman, the one who suffers in silence and waits to be saved. But the world has changed. Women have changed, and dramas need to keep up with this change. The audience is asking for protagonists who inspire, who have a voice, who exist beyond romance. Women who love, yes, but who also think, decide, make mistakes, start over. Real women. Because it's not just a matter of representation, it's a matter of responsibility. What dramas show as normal ends up shaping the vision of thousands of young people around the world, and perpetuating this outdated model is also perpetuating inequality, and this needs to change, urgently. If there's a marked card in dramas that most irritates fans nowadays, it's the poorly resolved love triangle. And this is thing number 3 that urgently needs to change in dramas. You know, that charismatic, gentle, present second male lead who does everything for the female lead, and who will still be discarded without mercy in the end? Yeah, this has a name. It's the famous second lead syndrome, a syndrome that affects not only the characters, but mainly the viewer, who suffers watching the healthiest romance being ignored in favor of an obvious script. In many cases, the love triangle doesn't serve to develop characters or create real conflict. It's there just to fill space and generate artificial tension. The male lead's rival appears out of nowhere, creates passing drama, delays the main relationship, and disappears as soon as he fulfills his disposable role. This creates a serious side effect. The audience stops caring, stops investing emotionally, because they already know everything is predictable, that no matter how incredible the second lead is, he'll never have a chance. Even worse, when the male lead is toxic, insensitive, treats the protagonist badly for half the drama, while the rival is attentive, loving, respectful. And even so, the script forces the female lead to choose the one who treated her worse, because he's more intense, sexier, or simply because he's on the official poster. This generates frustration, and it's not little. Fans write entire forums just to vent about how disappointed they were with unfair endings. Many even abandon dramas in the middle, when they realize the triangle isn't going to lead anywhere. And deep down, the problem isn't the love triangle. It's the lack of real emotional development. There's a lack of depth, nuances, mutual growth. There's a lack of letting characters breathe, make mistakes, change, evolve. Romance in a drama should be built based on compatibility, joint growth, and emotional truth, but what we see is a marketing game. A couple already defined from the beginning, while the second lead is used as bait to hook the audience, provoke suffering, and then be discarded as if he had no importance. And this, honestly, it's disrespectful to the audience, and to the character himself, who deserved more than being just an extra in someone else's suffering. It's time for screenwriters to stop using triangles as an excuse and start building relationships that really make sense. Of all the cliches that dramas insist on repeating, perhaps the most irritating of all is this number 4, the complete, absurd, and forced lack of communication between characters. You know those situations where everything could be resolved with a 5-minute conversation, but that end up becoming a 5-episode drama? Yeah, this gets tiring. How many times have we seen the male lead hide something to protect the female lead as if she were incapable of dealing with the truth? Or the protagonist get hurt by a misinterpreted situation and decide to distance herself without even asking what really happened? And the worst part? The two spend days avoiding each other, suffering, crying, all because no one had the initiative to simply talk. This type of narrative might have worked in the past, when audiences accepted these dynamics as part of the fantasy. But today, with so much discussion about emotional health, healthy relationships, and emotional maturity, this cliché sounds immature, outdated, and forced. It doesn't generate real tension, just frustration. And the most curious thing is that Korean dramas are extremely good at building sensitive, deep, impactful dialogues. But it seems that when it comes to resolving the central conflict, everything becomes silence. Screenwriters choose to create emotional walls that don't make sense with the evolution of the characters themselves. People who have already been through so much together suddenly act as if they had never learned to communicate. This weakens the narrative, diminishes emotional impact, and transforms a promising romance into a sequence of unnecessary misunderstandings. And all this for what? To keep the couple artificially separated for a few more episodes? To stretch the story without having to write complex scenes of real reconciliation? Enough. The audience has already understood this trick, and they're tired. The lack of communication as the main obstacle in a relationship no longer works. We want to see mature characters who make mistakes, yes, but who also know how to apologize, listen, open their hearts. Because this yes generates real connection with those watching. And let's face it, if a couple's love depends on silence, pride, and misunderstandings, then it's not love, it's a poorly written script. And last but not least, few things leave a drama fan as outraged as watching 16 entire episodes, suffering with the characters, rooting for each twist, and in the end, being left in a vacuum. The much-awaited ending doesn't come, or comes halfway, or worse, throws everything in the trash. It's as if the screenwriters simply got tired of writing and said, "Figure it out, audience." And we figure it out, angrily. Open endings without resolution or with forced twists are one of the biggest complaints among drama fans, and it's not an exaggeration. Many dramas build relationships with so much care. Beautiful scenes, moving dialogues, intense looks, only to, in the end, leave the couple separated, give an empty time jump or cut to a symbolic scene that maybe means reconciliation, but that nobody understands for sure. And it doesn't stop there. Sometimes the villain simply disappears. A character dies out of nowhere, the protagonist moves to another country, or the drama ends with a generic narration about moving forward, as if that were enough to close a months-long story. It's not. The audience invested time, emotion, expectation. They deserve more than an interpretive ending. They deserve a real conclusion. And it's worth saying here, it's not about always wanting a happy ending, where everyone gets married, has children, and lives forever. No, what the audience wants is coherence. They want to feel that everything they followed had a purpose, that the character's pain led to some real transformation, that choices had consequences, that the ending, whether it's sad, happy, or bittersweet, made sense with everything that came before. But what many dramas deliver is exactly the opposite: rushed, emotionless, unresolved endings. This happens because some screenwriters wait until the last episode to resolve everything. And then, there's no time. Or the story was stretched too much because of ratings and the climax gets lost. Result? An ending that doesn't impact, doesn't move, and doesn't close the cycle. And there's more. This type of ending breaks the audience's trust. Many fans, after some disappointments, start avoiding unfinished dramas or those with suspicious endings. They look for spoilers before starting to avoid the risk of getting frustrated. And this directly affects how the genre is consumed. The relationship between audience and narrative becomes a minefield, all for fear of, once again, being left without answers. It's time to respect the audience until the last minute, to understand that the ending is as important as the beginning, and that a good story isn't just one that hooks, but one that also liberates, that closes the cycle, that honors the time of those who watched. Because after so much waiting, so much emotional investment, we don't want to imagine the ending. We want to feel the ending, and keep it in our hearts. And now I want to know from you, which of these things irritates you most in dramas? Or is there something else you think should be on this urgent list? Comment down below. Let's talk. That's it for today. See you in the next video.